Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. This week I have Owen Paulls. He is from the south coast of England and he successfully toured as a musician for many years before picking up tattooing somewhere around 2012. Owen, introduce yourself.
That's pretty much everything you need to know. I'm Owen. I do black and grey tattooing with a hint of animation.
Okay, let's start with your life in England. How did you become a musician?
Well, I was actually the son of a really great English musician and a choir teacher. She was the one that sort of encouraged me to get started with different instruments or listening to tracks and seeing what I could point out as a little kid. And then from there, just encouraged to literally just turn my hand to any instrument that I possibly could. And then when I was at school as well, just getting into bands and hanging out with people and making connections that way.
So, when you got into the touring side of music, what type of music did you play?
I got really lucky. The band that I ended up having the most success with were already like a really nicely established unit before their drummer left. So I started filling in for them, thinking, well, this would be nice if it leads somewhere, but I'll just keep my fingers crossed. And they already had a bunch of US touring dates set up. So I was able to just jump straight in with them, play some punk rock music, and people already knew some of the songs. We wrote some new albums together as well. But without them being so organized, I might not have been able to do as much as I was in the music industry because I was just showing up and playing drums. I was really, really lucky for that.
Right. So, when you went on that tour, when was that first real tour?
Oh, we did it. I think our first one was like 2008, maybe. Um, where the way that we got started on Warped Tour was that we'd found out that there was such a thing called a barbecue band. And it was basically that there was a band that got to play all of the slots that like weren't filled, or maybe somebody had pulled out that day and they needed an extra band to jump in there. They got to play on whatever stage that was, and in return for that, their job was to cook up all the barbecues at the like after parties. So they worked for tips and they worked for like the chance to play on different stages and whatever. So we asked the owner, Kevin, like, hey, is this something that we could do? And he said, well, we've used the same barbecue band for years, but if you guys want to help out in the catering department every day, we'll see what we can do. So that's what we did. We just showed up. We got our little work permits from the work permit office. Like bought a van. I think we spent like $5,000 on a really cheap van, threw all of our gear in it, and then ended up working every single day in return for, I think the first year we might have played like 40 shows or something like that. I can't really remember, but basically working our asses off in return for a nice little Warped Tour chance, I suppose.
So, what makes you switch from being a touring musician to a tattoo artist?
Oof. I think the way that we got started and the punk rock sort of wave, it was kind of the tail end of all of that. Honestly, like it were if we had maybe started 10 or 15 years earlier, we would have had enough sort of behind us to keep going. But the way we saw that tour go from sort of more of a punk base to more of like a new metal slash DJ sort of vibe by the end of Warped Tour. Like, I don't know if you remember going to any of those shows back in the day, but it used to be so punk heavy. And then by the end of it, obviously they're catering to ticket sales, but it was very new metal-y, very like hardcore metal by the end of it. And we just didn't have a little pigeonhole to fit in anymore. So as our dates started winding down and as our booking agent was starting to get us a little bit less, we were all looking for jobs, but there's no way you can go from that to working for some dude in an office again. It just doesn't, the two don't weigh up. So I just stumbled my way into an apprenticeship and sort of put together a little portfolio and was like, look, I really want to do this. I want to be my own boss. I want to be in charge of how far I want to get. and then just begged somebody to train me up.
Okay, so speaking of your apprenticeship, how hard was it for you to learn how to tattoo?
It wasn't. I would say that having a bit of a graphic design knowledge helped me out loads because I wasn't coming at it from a brand new perspective. Like it was, I already had some drawings and some paintings and some graphic design work under my belt. So it was more like just learning a new medium. I got to do little tiny names on the wrist, little Chinese symbols, little Japanese symbols, all the sort of newbie stuff that you'd expect from 10, 15 years ago. And once I just felt confident on that stuff, they just let me loose to tattoo all my friends and family and whoever wanted to come in. And then I think after about a year, I was ready for my first street shop. And I spent probably 2 years just doing like little bangers, little American traditional, British traditional flash, whatever people brought through the door, and just really cutting my teeth.
So your tattooing style is black and gray as opposed to color. How did you decide on this style and how would you define it?
I would just say black and grey realism, but people like to get so nichey nowadays. People want to put everything in its own little box, but honestly, it's just tattoo. It's just black and grey realistic tattoo, and it's just that my influences have come from animation world, have come from the fine art world for like oil painting and things like this. It's more that I think that I'm trying to create a sort of my own version of it, but I still like very much put it down as the category of black and grey realistic tattooing.
Well, I've looked at some of those tattoos and it's really amazing
Yeah.
how much they really look like a portrait, like a black and white portrait as opposed to a drawing.
There's a fine line with that stuff because it's how much do you want to copy a picture exactly, or how much do you want to make an art piece? So some people, especially for family portraits and that, they want them exactly the same, and I can't blame them. I'm like, okay, that's fine. There's not a lot of my sort of personality that goes into those. But the ones that are more design based, where we've just used a model as like a loose reference, and then I get to go off on my own and add whatever I want into it, they're the ones that are super exciting.
Right. Now you've won several awards at some pretty famous tattoo shows.
You know,
So talk a little bit about some of those awards and how that came about going to those shows.
I mean, it's like every tattoo show now has judging, that has awards, it has different things. I got really lucky working one show in Evergreen, it used to be run by a guy called Joshua Carlton. Really great painter, great tattooer. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But that show was like a real like rite of passage invitational show. I got two best of days, I think. Oh no, maybe one was like first place black and grey, and one was best of day. But even just to leave to work that show at all, massive honor. But to leave there with awards as well was like just the icing on the cake for everything else coming together. And then from there, it gave me a lot more confidence to start submitting my pieces. But there are caveats to competing at shows. Like, first of all, you need to be super prepared with what the categories are, what you're actually going to compete in, and then what time that is. Because some shows, like European shows, they might start the judging at 4 p.m. and the doors don't open till 11. So now you've only got 5 hours to try and do the best portrait you can that usually takes you 10 hours, crammed in, and then stand in a line for about an hour waiting for it to be judged. So there's some shows I work where I do compete, and then there's a lot of other shows where the time crunch is just not worth rushing my customer's piece for.
Well, I can understand that. We've all had that one tattoo that we wish we hadn't have got or hadn't had that specific person do.
Thank God for Labour days though, because like got so good.
Right. So, when you're doing a tattoo, what kind of music do you listen to?
Right, okay. The other day, I was at work and somebody else asked a coworker of mine the same question, and then he was like, "Well, you know what? I listen to a bit of everything." And then he looked over at me and went, "Well, actually, no. Owen listens to everything. I listen to more like this." So my playlist is literally like it goes from Latin jazz to French pop to Spanish stuff to the Delphonics, over to Alkaline Trio, Bayside. It's really all over the place. It's mostly things that come between a certain tempo, because as a drummer, I get locked into rhythms quite easily. So I've curated myself a nice playlist that's between. I usually tell people it's between like 80 and 110 BPM. And then that way my wrist is moving at the exact same speed at the beginning of the day as the end. Because if I start off on like the Delphonics and it's all slow, and then I end up on like no effects, I'm going to be like scraggling, getting my tattoo done by the end of it. So it's nice to have sort of a steady, nice pace to work to. And that's in that sort of BPM range.
So do you ever let one of your subjects pick the music?
If they're chill. I do work in a room with four other people, so we've got to have some sort of baseline control. Like, all the stuff that I've been putting on my playlist is really like neutral, really middle of the road, really like chill out, puts everybody in a good vibes. The stuff that I probably couldn't listen to, or maybe just listen to a couple of tracks and then change it, would be more modern hip hop, which I know it has a word, but do you know what word that is?
I
Like,
do not.
what's the word for modern hip? It's not trap, and it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of clicky rap. Like, it's not mumble rap, but it's very close. But anyway, that style I can only work to for a little bit because it's awkwardly in the middle of that catchment range of the BPM. So I'm either rushing my piece or I'm dragging with my piece. There's like, it's 90 BPM for me is a really hard one to work out. So maybe not that, and maybe not like Norwegian death metal, like, or something super, super like crazy time signatures. Like, I think we threw on Animals as Leaders the other day, and I was a bit like, okay, this is like melting me a little bit to work to this.
Right on. What advice would you give to someone wanting to get their first tattoo?
Research. That's what I would say. Research. Maybe pick three top artists that you really love their work. Don't worry about where they are in the world or where they are in the country. Just remember that this is a one-time shot, and you aren't gonna be happy that you saved $30 when the tattoo is trashy a few years later. So do your research, find your top three artists, and then start looking at their healed work as well. Because if they are not posting just as much healed work as their fresh work, you've got to wonder what that piece is going to look like down the road. Even if it's just a little guy, like a name on the wrist, I've seen them fall out, I've seen them blur out, I've seen them blow out. It's just, have a little look at people's healed stuff. That's what I'd say.
And for skincare and preparation like that, any advice there?
If I was, I mean, my my little people was like pretty long, but I would say if I'm gonna nitpick one thing, it depends on climate. So if you're living somewhere really, really hot, where you have really hot, dry summers, moisturize every day, multiple times a day, at least 2 weeks before your appointment, because you're gonna take out a layer of hydration by even shaving down the skin at the beginning of the appointment. So the more moisture you've got, the easier it is for us to do our job. The second thing is probably working out and dehydration. So don't work out a whole bunch before your tattoo. Don't work out a whole bunch after your tattoo. Don't come in like where you've been drinking from the night before. It's just everything you can do to imagine it being your only chance at getting this right. Just do that.
Fair enough. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start a career as a tattoo artist?
Um, study all of your previous art mediums and become knowledgeable at the medium that you want to go into. So if you want to go into like traditional Japanese style of tattooing, get really, really good at knowing all of the history of that and all of the background of that. If you want to get into doing portraits, then you need to know how to draw a portrait or paint a portrait first. Like, there's no point in just diving straight into the skin, because you're going to run into errors, you're going to run into blurry bits of a photo, and if you just tattoo it exactly the same, what are you adding to the industry. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to take a photo and better it on the skin through your art knowledge, instead of just becoming like a tattoo printer, essentially.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we close this out?
Yeah, have you got any tips for beard care? Because that is a mighty, mighty beard you have, sir.
Honestly, I've been pretty lucky growing this beard because I can't grow hardly anything up top. But I went to a music festival in 2017 and I had shaved the day before I went, and it was a whole weekend thing. And about 2 weeks after I got back, I realized I had not shaved.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I'm like, I'm just going to let it grow and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty lucky because I tried beard oil once and it looked like I hadn't bathed in weeks.
Oh no, it's all
So
like
I literally just shampoo with Head and Shoulders. That is all I use.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a nice like rough to the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm going to be playing by the time this is on the air. It will have already happened. But I play in a pop punk band and I've got my costume. We're doing a Halloween party. And I bought a jet black wig, and when I put it on, it looked like Grizzly Adams and Slash had a baby. So the lady that trims or cuts my wife's hair, I've spoken to her, and she's going to trim my beard up really nice, and going to put some temporary dye in it so that
Oh,
it
I love
looks like Slash had a baby with himself, or
so fun.
you know. But yeah, that is that. Anything else?
I mean, I'm kind of interested in your pop punk band now, but
Well, it's just a bunch of local guys. It's a cover band. You're going to hear Billy Idol. You're going to hear My Chemical Romance. Now you put me on the spot. Fall Out Boy. We've
oh,
got
like
yeah, hard rock covers of boy bands. Hard rock covers of like Britney Spears. Hard rock covers of Taylor Swift. Yeah. It's something no one around here is doing, and it does draw a crowd.
no, especially at like bars and for events and stuff like that. So people want to hear the songs they already know, but with a twist. So yeah,
Right, right.
they totally got that unlocked. If it was like new pop punk, I was gonna ask you like because I went on a couple of auditions not too long ago for different pop punk bands, but it struck me as quite a hard industry nowadays to break into for the pop punk side of stuff, just because of how the industry's changed so much now. Like I feel like the heyday when we were playing, it was easy, like getting the shows and getting the get. All you had to do was show up and be a really tight band, and everything else would do the rest of the work. But I completely respect how much work you've got to go into doing a band now, because you've got press and you've got the all the social media side of stuff as well, especially like keeping up with that every single day. And now like it's almost like you've got three jobs in a band and one of them is playing and writing the songs.
Right.
So yeah, thanks.
So where can my audience find you online?
They can go to my website, owenpaulstattoos.com. They can go to my Instagram, which is just Owen Paulls, which is OwenPaulls. Or they can email me, owenpaulstattoos@outlook.com.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you, man. Yeah, have fun playing Backstreet Boy covers.
Hey, we got two Backstreet Boy songs and two NSYNC songs.
Amazing. Hope they are back to back and you all do the choreography with it.
Well, we haven't got the choreography part down yet, but the best part is we have a local girl that she's followed us for a long time, and she knows the words to all of the boy band songs.
Amazing.
And she's also like, well, you should pick this up and you should drop this one, and so it's kind of nice to have that feedback from somebody that shows up.
I love it. You got like a mid-2000s manager going on.
Absolutely. All right, Owen, you take care.
I'll see you in a bit. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast outlet. Visit BigAlRocks.com to find past episodes, on-demand links to my radio show, links to my social media, and other Big Al shenanigans. Most importantly, please like and share this episode. Peace out.